Hey y'all, and welcome back to D. Maria Reacts. So, the Democratic National Convention is going on in Chicago, and I am wanting to react to Michelle Obama. She's going to be speaking tonight. I think tonight is the second night. There's a lot of mayhem going on outside of the convention, but for purposes of this video, I just wanted to react to what Michelle Obama is having to say. So, I'm going to get my headphones plugged in, and let's jump over there and check it out.
Okay, we got a big night ahead. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much. Okay. Hey. Hello, Chicago. Yeah. All right. Something wonderfully magical is in the air, isn't it? Yeah. You know, we're feeling it here in this arena, but it's spreading all across this country we love. A familiar feeling that's been buried too deep for far too long. You know what I'm talking about. It's the contagious power of hope. The anticipation, the energy, the exhilaration of once again being on the cusp of a brighter day. The chance to vanquish the demons of fear, division, and hate that have consumed us and continue pursuing the unfinished promise of this great nation, the dream that our parents and grandparents fought and died and sacrificed for. America, hope is making a comeback. Yeah.
And all the young soldiers, but that's about it.
To be honest, I am realizing that until recently, I have mourned the dimming of that hope. And maybe you've experienced the same feelings, that deep pit in my stomach, a palpable sense of dread about the future.
Her hair is cute. I like her outfit.
And for me, that mourning has also been mixed with my own personal grief. The last time I was here in my hometown was to memorialize my mother, the woman who showed me the meaning of hard work and humility and decency, the woman who set my moral compass high and showed me the power of my own voice. Folks, I still feel her loss so profoundly. I wasn't even sure if I'd be steady enough to stand before you tonight, but my heart compelled me to be here because of the sense of duty that I feel to honor her memory and to remind us all not to squander the sacrifices our elders made to give us a better future. You see, my mom, in her steady, quiet way, lived out that striving sense of hope every single day of her life. She believed that all children, all people have value, that anyone can succeed if given the opportunity. She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed. They understood that it wasn't enough for their kids to thrive if everyone else around us was drowning. So my mother volunteered at the local school. She always looked out for the other kids on the block. She was glad to do the thankless, unglamorous work that for generations has strengthened the fabric of this nation. The belief that if you do unto others, if you love thy neighbor, if you work and scrape and sacrifice, it will pay off. If not for you, then maybe for your children or your grandchildren. You see, those values have been passed on through family farms and factory towns, through tree-lined streets and crowded tenements, through prayer groups and National Guard units and social studies classrooms. Those were the values my mother poured into me until her very last breath. Kamala Harris and I built our lives on those same foundational values. Even though our mothers grew up an ocean apart, they shared the same belief in the promise of this country. That's why her mother moved here from India at 19. It's why she taught Kamala about justice, about the obligation to lift others up, about our responsibility to give more than we take. She'd often tell her daughter, "Don't sit around and complain about things, do something." So, with that voice in her head, Kamala went out and she worked hard in school, graduating from an HBCU, earning her law degree at a state school. And then she went on to work for the people, fighting to hold lawbreakers accountable, strengthening the rule of law, fighting to get folks better wages, cheaper prescription drugs, a good education, decent health care, child care, elder care. From a middle-class household, Kamala worked her way up to become Vice President of the United States of America. My girl.
She worked her way. She was chosen, and she's a DEI hire. But anyway, Michelle.
Kamala Harris is more than ready for this moment. She is one of the most qualified people ever to seek the office of the presidency.
Michelle is a great speaker, okay? But even with her great speaking, you can't melt Kamala and pour her on me. She is not fit for the presidency.
And she is one of the most dignified. A tribute to her mother, to my mother.
How is she so dignified when all she does is laugh and cackle at everything? Like everything in the world is so funny. We're in a mess in America. And she laughs at everything.
Mother, and to your mother too.
Oh, how we're in a mess? Well, besides all our internal problems, I mean, we're on the verge of a third world war. I really believe like China and Russia are just sitting back, waiting, watching to see what happens with our elections. And if it happens that Kamala ends up in the White House as the president of the United States, I shudder to think. I shudder to think of what will happen to us. I really believe we will be brought to our knees. I believe Kamala Harris will allow this to happen because she has worked thus far to get us to a point of great weakness. And I believe she wants to see the collapse of America. See, there's something that the elite ones on the planet talk about, the Great Reset and all this spooky stuff that has a lot to do with moving us to a more socialist kind of country, inching us more towards communism. They have big plans, and they're pretending to want to keep America as the America that we all, the older ones of us that is, that we all know and love and have memory of. They want to change all of that. And so they'll come out and they'll speak a good game. But when they're done speaking that game, there's some very sinister plans they have going on behind the scenes. I just can't do it. You cannot make me support Kamala Harris. No, ma'am.
The embodiment of the stories we tell ourselves about this country. Her story is your story. It's my story. It's the story of the vast majority of Americans trying to build a better life. Look, Kamala knows, like we do, that regardless of where you come from, what you look like, who you love, how you worship, or what's in your bank account, we all deserve the opportunity to build a decent life. All of our contributions deserve to be accepted and valued. Because no one has a monopoly on what it means to be an American. No one.
So they're having to really talk Kamala up and bring her all the way up because she's been so quiet ever since she's been installed as the Democratic presidential nominee, the Democratic presidential nominee, ever since she's been installed because nobody got to vote on it. And you know something else that's interesting? It's interesting that they call us Trump supporters. Like, I was seeing some video clips earlier today where people were saying how we need to be deprogrammed, and it's like we're involved in a cult. And it's because we're fixated on one person. We have our person, and that person is Donald Trump. It's amazing that those things can be said about Republicans, whether we be MAGA or not. You know, we're standing unified behind our person, our representative. For people who support this party, it's like whoever they. You ever watch The Price is Right? Remember the shell game? There was like 3 coconut shells, I think. 3, yeah. And then there's a tennis ball under one of them. And then Bob Barker would switch them around. They can switch around their leaders. It doesn't matter who they put in that spot. You know, they take Joe Biden down and they stick Kamala Harris in the spot. And if her poll number, she'll probably get a little bit of a spike in the polls right now because of all the flowery things that are being said about her at this convention. But eventually that'll wear off. And if especially she keeps doing the way she's been doing up till now, which is not speaking to the press, not coming out answering even the tough questions, not telling the American people what her stands are, her stands and what her policies are, then it's just going to fizzle down. Now, we still have what, like 70 days or so before November 5th gets here, isn't it? We're in August, September, October, something like that. We have like 72 days or 70 days. A lot can change in that time. If something were to happen and her poll was to like really, really drop, I wonder, do they have anybody stashed away that they will come and pull out to the forefront and say, you know what, we're going to run this person? Like, say, for instance, it's Michelle. Now, we've all heard that Michelle has no interest, she says, in jumping into this game. Um, but is that indeed the story? Because it's just so interesting what's going on politically in this country right now. I was just earlier hearing about RFK Jr. and his camp, how they are possibly thinking about RFK Jr. dropping down out of the race for president, um, because of a whole lot of goings on behind the scene. See, he's under attack by the Democrats because they don't want RFK Jr. to be the nominee. They don't want any competitors for Kamala. They just wanted to install Kamala and put all the efforts behind her. Now, just say for instance, just let me just play devil's advocate. Just say for instance, RFK Jr. were to decide, you know what, I am going to go ahead and come on over and work with Donald Trump and just bow on out. Then what will they do? Because that will be a virtual shoo-in for Trump's presidency. What will the Democrats then have to pull out of their hat in case it didn't work out with Kamala? Would they go to the extreme of trying to pull Michelle in on the game? Wouldn't that be interesting? Whatever the case, I think that Trump's still going to get in there, and I thank the Lord for that. I think his life was preserved for a reason, most definitely. And that's because God himself has more for him to do, more work for him to do, even in this nation. So this is all very interesting, all the very flowery words, but it's going to be quite an adventure still from here on out to see how things turn out.
Kamala has shown her allegiance to this nation, not by spewing anger and bitterness, but by living a life of service and always pushing the doors of opportunity open to others. She understands that most of us will never be
living a life of service. See, that's another interesting thing. When you've been like receiving a government paycheck all your adult life and you're running for president, compared to a person who has made great strides in the private sector, who's worked a little bit in Hollywood, who's done a little of this, a little of that. His perspective on the world is so much more enriched, and he has so much more to pull from. And a couple of people have been saying, well, I hope Donald Trump doesn't make the same mistakes he did his last presidency. And what they were referring to is the people he surrounded himself with, because the folks he surrounded himself with, a lot of them end up stabbing him in the back, really. Why would people think, oh, he's just going to make the same old mistakes? This man has had many, many years to think about this whole process. I believe that his insight, as far as who he surrounds himself with, is going to be very different. I believe that some of the people he was giving ear to in the past, the types of people, no, he's not going to make those same mistakes. And he's going in definitely knowing what he's up against as far as our country being infiltrated by a radicalized, extreme liberal progressive mindset, and how that all needs to be ousted. It all needs to be just sucked out of our government to the extreme. He did a little bit of it his last presidency, but he needs to go for the gusto this time around. It's for everyone's own good. Let's see what else Michelle has to say.
Afforded the grace of failing forward. We will never benefit from the affirmative action of generational wealth. If we bankrupt a business, if we bankrupt a business or choke in a crisis, we don't get a second, third, or fourth chance. If things don't go our way, we don't have the luxury of whining or cheating others to get further ahead. No. We don't get to change the rules so we always win. If we see a mountain in front of us, we don't expect there to be an escalator waiting to take us to the top. No. We put our heads down. We get to work. In America, we do something. And throughout her entire life, that's what we've seen from Kamala Harris. The steel of her spine, the steadiness of her upbringing, the honesty of her example, and yes, the joy of her laughter and her light.
No. Mm-mm. It's almost as if she's talking about someone else, because the descriptor she's using being applied to Kamala Harris, I don't see it. I don't see the connection.
It couldn't be more obvious. Of the two major candidates in this race, only Kamala Harris truly understands the unseen labor and unwavering commitment that has always made America great.
Kamala Harris has no idea. She was raised by Marxist parents. Kamala has great plans for us in this country, but it's not what we think.
Now, unfortunately, we know what comes next. We know folks are going to do everything they can to distort her truth. My husband and I sadly know a little something about this.
You don't have to distort
For
her
years,
truth.
Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. See, his limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hardworking, highly educated, successful people who happen to be black. Wait. I want to know. Who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs?
She tried it. She tried it. That was funny. That was funny. I'm gonna give that to you, Michelle. That was funny.
Look, it's his same old con. His same old con. Doubling down on ugly, misogynistic, racist lies as a substitute for real ideas and solutions that will actually make people's lives better. Look, because cutting our health care, taking away our freedom to control.
First of all, what Donald Trump said is he is not going to snatch the Affordable Health Care. He's not going to snatch that out from under people without putting something better in its place. I just heard him say that a few days ago. So these people are coming with outright lies, and they do this to create a fear so that you'll vote for them. Look, we have to save you because this monster is out to get you. And only we can save you. And also, I heard a gentleman talk about how when he lost his private insurance, his insurance every month went from $185 a month to like thousands, he said, under the Affordable Health Care or whatever. And he basically, it priced him out of the market, and he's been without insurance for like 10 years. You may have seen that video. I'm going to see if I can locate it. I believe I saved it in my phone. But the way they lie, it's such a shame.
Control our.
And this is why I like to listen to both sides, because a lot of people may make the assumption that all I do is Trump, 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 Fox News, Trump, Fox News, Trump, Fox News, Trump. No, I watch a whole lot of different viewpoints so that I can have an expanded understanding, a more wide understanding, and be able to really study and make a good decision, because I am accountable to God for my decision, and I want to make sure that I'm not just accepting things at face value without actually doing my due diligence and looking in to find the truth to the best of my ability of finding the truth. Truth is a hard thing to come by nowadays when folks are scrubbing the internet and rewriting history and all of this foolishness. So, but yeah, that's, I even watch viewpoints of people who live outside of the USA, because I want to see how they view what we're dealing with here. All of that gives you all kinds of insight that help you really understand better what's going on in the world in which we live. So, anyway, it irks me so bad when they lie like this.
Bodies, the freedom to become a mother through IVF like I did, those things are not going to improve the health outcomes of our wives, mothers, and daughters. Shutting down the Department of Education, banning our books, none of that will prepare our kids for the future.
Oh, yes, it will. When you're banning books about filth that children do not need to be reading, yeah, that's going to prepare them better.
Demonizing our children for being who they are and loving who they love. Look, that doesn't make anybody's life better. Instead, it only makes us small. And let me tell you this, going small is never the answer. Going small is the opposite of what we teach our kids. Going small is petty, it's unhealthy, and quite frankly, it's unpresidential. So, why would any of us accept this from anyone seeking our highest office? Why would we normalize that type of backward leadership? Doing so only demeans and cheapens our politics. It only serves to further discourage good, big-hearted people.
Oh my goodness. I can't help. I'm a teeth person. What's up with Michelle's top row of teeth? If I was her and had the money she had, I would have like the best veneers you have ever seen in your life. Especially if I'm going to be in a position of speaking to people. I'm being petty. Let me keep going.
From wanting to get involved at all. America, our parents taught us better than that, and we deserve so much better than that. That's why we must do everything in our power to elect two of those good, big-hearted people. There is no other choice than Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. No other choice.
Oh, there's other choice. There's another choice.
But as we embrace this renewed sense of hope, let us not forget the despair we have felt. let us not forget what we are up against. Yes, Kamala and Tim are doing great now. We're loving it. They're packing arenas across the country. Folks are energized. We are feeling good. But remember, there are still so many people who are desperate for a different outcome, who are ready to question and criticize every move Kamala makes, who are eager to spread those lies, who don't want to vote for a woman, who will continue to prioritize building their wealth over ensuring that everyone has enough. So no matter how good we feel tonight or tomorrow or the next day, this is going to be an uphill battle. So folks, we cannot be our own worst enemies. No. See, because the minute something goes wrong, the minute a lie takes hold, folks, we cannot start wringing our hands. We cannot get a Goldilocks complex about whether everything is just right. And we cannot indulge our anxieties about whether this country will elect someone like Kamala instead of doing everything we can to get someone like Kamala elected. Kamala and Tim, they have lived amazing lives. And I am confident that they will lead with compassion, inclusion, and grace. But
be confident, dear.
They are still only human. They are not perfect. And like all of us, they will make mistakes. But luckily, y'all, this is not just on them. No, this is up to us, all of us, to be the solution that we seek. It's up to all of us to be the antidote to the darkness and division. Look, I don't care how you identify politically, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, or none of the above. This is our time to stand up for what we know in our hearts is right. To stand up, not just for our basic freedoms, but for decency and humanity, for basic respect, dignity, and empathy, for the values at the very foundation of this democracy. It's up to us to remember what Kamala's mother told her. Don't just sit around and complain, do something. So if they lie about her, and they will, we've got to do something. If we see a bad poll, and we will, we got to put down that phone and do something. If we start feeling tired, if we start feeling that dread creeping back in, we got to pick ourselves up, throw water on our face, and what? We only have 2.5 months, y'all, to get this done. Only 11 weeks to make sure every single person we know is registered and has a voting plan. So we cannot afford for anyone America to sit on their hands and wait to be called. Don't complain if no one from the campaign has specifically reached out to you to ask you for your support. There is simply no time for that kind of foolishness. You know what you need to do. So, consider this to be your official ask. Michelle Obama is asking you, no, I'm telling y'all to do something. Because you all, this election is going to be close. In some states, just a handful, listen to me, a handful of votes in every precinct could decide the winner. So we need to vote in numbers that erase any doubt. We need to overwhelm any effort to suppress us. Our fate is in our hands. In 77 days, we have the power to turn our country away from the fear, division, and smallness of the past. We have the power to marry our hope with our action. We have the power to pay forward the love, sweat, and sacrifice of our mothers and fathers and all those who came before us. We did it before, y'all, and we sure can do it again. Let us work like our lives depend on it. And let us keep moving our country forward and go higher, yes, always higher than we've ever gone before as we elect the next president and vice president of the United States, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Thank you all. God bless.
Okay, so that's the end of Michelle Obama's portion of the speech, and looks like Barack's coming up right behind her. And I'm watching this late, so all of this has already happened. It's late, and I'm cross-eyed tired, so I'm gonna watch the part of Obama's speech tomorrow sometime, and I will perhaps do the same and kind of film my reaction as they're talking, as he's talking rather. So anyway, that is all I have for this evening. I thank you. Well, that is all I have for this video. I thank you so much for taking time to stop by and watch. And I would ask, before you leave, if you would hit that like button. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button and press that bell marked all so that you will get notification whenever I upload another video. Thank you so much for joining my little community and taking the time to stop by and see my reaction. You know, I'm just a regular average American citizen, but this election is so important that it has motivated me to do what I can to just, to help educate those around me, and to hopefully persuade people to make the right decision and not just an identity politics decision, not just a feel good decision, but making the right decision. So, thank you so much for listening in, as I said, and I will see you all next time.